So excited today about introducing Patti Phelps. Patti is somebody that I have known about forever because my father owned Hulehorn Security. He had a guard company. So Patti was the competition that we liked. We would always compare, well, what's Phelps doing these days? So I've known about her company for a very, very long time. She kind of came to the company, I'm sure you'll tell your story the back way, but she is a great company. Phelps Security she's the largest female-owned business in Memphis, so congratulations for that. That's huge. And one of our newest members of the Society of Entrepreneurs, so congratulations on that too. And Patti, I'm just going to turn it over to you. Okay. She's going to do a great job. Here you go. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to warn y'all in advance that a speaker I am not. If we want to talk about security or a lot of other things or whatever, I won't be nervous, but talking about myself is about the worst thing that you could ask me to do. So I'm going to try to do my best at doing that. I'm pleased that Pearson asked me to come today and talk to you about entrepreneurship. When she asked me to speak on the subject, I thought, how might I offer anything to anybody? Because I actually consider myself an accidental entrepreneur. It wasn't what I intended to do at all. In fact, when Dr. Mary McDonald came to tell me that I'd been nominated for induction into the Society of Entrepreneurs, I'm not sure I'd ever identified myself as an entrepreneur. I just identified myself as a simple business owner. So I told Pearson I really didn't know what I could do to speak to you today except just tell you my story, okay? So that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to hope you're not going to be completely bored to death. So I'm glad you're still getting to eat, so you'll have something exciting to do, whatever. Anyway, but I had always thought of an entrepreneur as someone who had this brilliant, innovative idea and created a business plan and put it into action and had this big, successful business, kind of like Fred Smith, you know. Fred Smith, I'm not. In fact, when Mary came and she brought me this nice 25th anniversary book of Society of Entrepreneurs, and I started going through the pages, and I shut the book and I said, Mary, I don't belong in an organization with any of these people. I mean, I just don't think of myself on any level like that. So obviously there are many levels of entrepreneurship. And if I can do it, obviously anybody can. So I grew up in a family, I'll just tell you my story. I grew up in a family that wasn't very financially wealthy. In fact, we were pretty poor. 6 people living in a 2-bedroom house with 1 bathroom. Simple life. I didn't know that I was poor because I was rich in family and in faith, okay? We had love going all around. My mama could cook the greatest beans and dumplings and all kinds of stuff or whatever, so we ate like rich people to me, you know. So I never considered myself, you know, as not having wealth because I was wealthy in other ways. But my life revolved completely around family and church. That's all I knew. But that's the foundation upon which I've built my whole life. So I hope you'll excuse any faith stories that are in here because that is the story of my life. Not many people know that I actually grew up wanting to be a minister of music. At 7 years old, I sang my first solo, so music began to be my life. At 18, my dad took me to our pastor because we wanted to find out what I needed to do to carry forward my dream. And he quickly burst my bubble when he said, women can't be ministers in the Southern Baptist Church. So later in this story, you'll find out why that's kind of an important part of my story. I was completely heartbroken. As I said, my family didn't have financial wealth. That's important too, because now I had to figure out what to do, okay? I had been studying voice with a professor at Memphis State, which is what University of Memphis was called then, because I'm so old. But I'd been studying there since the age of 13. I had kind of an exceptional voice, I was told, and so my school music teacher sent us, several of us in fact, to a professor to take voice lessons. So all I knew to do then, when my dream had, you know, my bubble had been burst, was just to pursue a music degree. The problem was we didn't have a lot of money, so I really didn't know how I was going to go to college. So my music teacher knew of some scholarship auditions with Memphis Opera Theater. So she signed me up to go audition, and I was blessed and awarded a full tuition opera scholarship, okay? Didn't necessarily want to be an opera singer. And I quickly found out when I got into the opera world as a Southern Baptist girl that that really wasn't for me. Okay, but it did educate me, and I'm very grateful for it. I sang a whole lot of opera for 5 years, was pretty good at it, had a chance to go to the Met because of the vocal type that I was. So I was being encouraged to do that, but that just wasn't in my dream. I really, at that point, had decided I wanted to be a music teacher. And those of you that don't know anything about that, you have to study every instrument in the orchestra. You have to, do elementary school, middle school, high school, or whatever. But I fell in love with elementary because Orff music had just come into play. And that was exciting to teach kids the music theory, and they didn't even know they were learning it. So I was just really all in on that. But of course, that program got put on hold for financial reasons or whatever. So my father had passed away when I was 18 years old suddenly in my freshman year, not expected. So I had to also get a job. My oldest sister owned a bookkeeping company where she kept books for a lot of small businesses, and I was blessed that she gave me a job. So I worked there every afternoon for 5 hours. This part of the story is important because I tell everybody now that God educated me for what he knew I was going to do while I was educating myself for what I thought I was going to do. Okay? So that's kind of how life is sometimes. So, but also, have you heard life is what happens while you're making other plans? That's my life. While in college, I met this really tall, 6'5", good-looking guy named Lloyd Phelps. He had been asked to temporarily assist his family while his sister was on maternity leave. They owned a company called Phelps Patrol and Guard Service, okay? And he didn't know he was walking into the greatest challenge of his life, okay? He was a good son in his early 20s, but he wasn't a businessman in the least. He really expected his sister to come back. He was interested in construction. He loved working with his hands. He had an apprenticeship at a construction company. They let him take a leave and go back, okay? But when he got there, he realized the company wasn't in good financial shape. It was really in trouble. And we kind of suspected that maybe that's why his sister went on maternity leave, okay? And as most of you probably guessed by this point, she never came back. Okay, so here he was left to figure out how to save his family because they had everything invested. Their houses were second mortgaged, all kinds of things. So if he walked away, he really turned his back on his family. So that wasn't something this man that I met was going to do. Okay, so he was a charmer. He was good looking. I never met anybody that ever met him that didn't love him, including me. But he was able to go to all of the people that his parents owed money to and ask them, could they defer payments? Could he pay them something all along? And his wonderful personality, I think, is what saved the company the most because they gave him a chance to do that and keep it on its feet for a little while. He also went and joined the Sheriff's Department, the Shelby County Sheriff's Department Academy to learn law enforcement because he's like, I'm going to do this. I need to learn about law enforcement and have some backing, knowledge in my backing. So I saw some things that I thought were kind of crazy going on when I would go visit him at his office or whatever. So I began to work with him at night, help him with his bookkeeping because, I had been blessed to learn about that. Helped him with some office procedures where some of his people were filing stuff in paper bags and crazy things or whatever. So we set up filing systems and different things. But I was going to college and I was working, so I could only help so much. But he kept it going. We eventually decided to get married, and after our wedding, we came back, and my sister said that she and her business partner decided to not do business together anymore and part ways, so I had to find another job. So I found a job as a bookkeeper. I wasn't really crazy about that as a future for myself, and one day, a man that I had kept books for at her company that owned an office equipment dealership came to her and said, "Where's your sister?" And she said, "Well, she's working over here as a bookkeeper." And he said, "Do you think she would have any interest in becoming a salesperson? Because women are really the thing going on now in selling office equipment, and I'd like to talk to her." And I'm like thinking, okay, well, I couldn't do that because I was a woman, but now I'm wanted because I'm a woman or whatever. So anyway, but I went and talked to him, And I was really excited about the prospect of being able to determine my own salary, because I knew I was a hard worker, so the harder I worked, the more money I could make was, that was a good idea for me. So anyway, so I said yes. So we were selling the new electronic technology that had come out on typewriters. And so I wasn't a typist, I was a musician, you know what I mean? So I asked them, can I take one of these typewriters home, because they had a buffer in the keyboard. That was the cool thing about them. And you could type and it would continue to type when you stopped. So if you were a really quick typist, it could keep up with you, okay? So I'm like thinking strategy. Can I take one home and practice? Well, the first thing I had to do was learn how to type something, okay? So I learned to type, now is the time for all good men to come to the aid of their country. So I did it all weekend until I could do it, and I could do my hands up like this and it would keep typing. You know what I mean? So anyway, I thought somebody's gonna like this, I think. But anyway. So I decided my target person would be the secretaries, because the boss didn't care about that, but they would. So when I got a chance to offer a proposal, I would say, well, can I show the secretary or whatever? Because then I thought they'd be my salesperson, right? So I was selling them like hotcakes, and I was making lots of money. And then word processors came out, and I got sent to New York to learn word processing. So I was like having a ball, and I was the breadwinner in our house, okay? So my boss that I worked for, though, liked what I was doing, and he admired me, and I thought he was great, and he made me feel smart, and he was encouraging. He made me sales manager. He taught me management skills. He taught me marketing skills that I knew nothing about. Once again, God designing training for me for what I was going to do. So I was really blessed with that. I wanted to just kill myself for that man. So I consider him a big part of my story. But at night after I worked for him, I'd help Lloyd, and I was taking all my ideas for sales proposals for this and showing Lloyd and making sales proposals that he could use and send out. So all of his stuff was becoming more professional as we worked as a team. And we loved the collaboration. It was exciting. So as time went on, we had lots of ideas. We knew that if we could get his parents to agree to some of these, that we could continue to move the business forward. But we could just never get them. They were very old school, and we could never get them to agree. So in 1981, he came to me and said, I have an idea. Will you quit your job and will you come to work with me? And I'm like thinking, like we had just bought a house, and we're like, okay, well, somebody's got to pay the rent, But he talked me into it, as persuasive as he was. And so I hung my neck over the guillotine and I quit my job. And it was heartbreaking for me, because I felt confident there. So anyway, I did that. We got together and we decided we were going to offer his parents to purchase the business from them, because we knew they weren't going to come aboard. And they agreed. And our journey together began wholeheartedly then. In order to make the payments, though, we had to do everything. We couldn't hire anybody to do anything. We had to do it all, because we had no money, because we had to be paying them. So we absolutely worked day and night to try to get it off the ground. But it was probably one of the most exciting times of my life. It's like, okay, now let's see what we can do. We knew if we could pull it off, that we could make Phelps Security an entity we could be proud of. So throughout the next 6 years, that's what we did. We worked, we grew, we were able to hire this person and that person and build it up or whatever to where we, we're proud. In September 1988, we paid our last payment. And we were so excited. We knew that now we had even more money to invest back into the company, and that, the prospects of what we could do going forward were even greater. So December 31, 1988, just a couple of months later, we decided we were going to have his family over and my family over and a few friends and have a New Year's Eve little gathering. And we were putting the food on the table, and I get a call, and my dispatcher says, Miss Patti, the building's on fire. And I'm thinking, put it out. You know what I mean? I'm thinking, you threw a cigarette butt in the garbage can. You know what I mean? And he goes, no, you don't understand. The whole building's on fire. And I said, well, get out. And so Lloyd and I jumped in the car. At the time, our office was near the mall, off the American Way by the Mall of Memphis. So as we came up on the Perkins exit, we could see flames all the way back. My heart sunk, and Lloyd, he goes, calm down, calm down. And I'm thinking, this is going to take a lot of prayer. So we drove up and we absolutely stood in the street and watched our building burn to the ground because they, of course, in those circumstances, it was an office park. There were other buildings and they were really putting the water on the other buildings, not on ours. So you're thinking, is my dream burning up? But then we're like, okay, we got to do something. So we're standing in the middle of the street with water going everywhere, flashing lights and sirens. And we're calling the telephone company and having the number to the office moved to my house number. We're telling our office staff, go to the house or whatever, because by then we had night crews. We turned a room in my house into my office for a few weeks while we figured out temporary office, arrangements. And by that time I had little children, and that was exciting to have night dispatchers in your house while your children are trying to sleep. I wouldn't recommend that part of my story to anybody. But anyway, we did that, and we moved all of it, and I had a computer there because I worked at home so much. So I had all the information that I really needed to keep going. But as devastating as this event was in our lives, and it was, and if you've ever lived through a fire of any kind and you ever smell it again, it'll just hit you all over again. I think it taught us some of the most valuable lessons we learned in our careers. Excuse me. Number one, this is a life lesson. We learned not to put any value in material possessions at all. Because you can stand there and in a couple of hours, what you worship so much can just go up in flames. So that was a really important life lesson for me. So when my friend had a bigger house than me or a better car than me, it didn't matter so much to me anymore, And I think we all get caught up in that and kind of make decisions and things that we shouldn't because we put so much value on material possessions. We also learned that the strength of our business was not in that building. The strength of our business was in our heart and the hearts of our employees. And because of that, we survived, I think. We had to completely start over. I mean, we didn't have a paperclip, okay? But we were filled with confidence that if we could make it through this, we could do just about anything, right? It's just like, okay, we did it. Now we're going to start over. Now we're going to do it all over again, okay? But anyway, over the next 30 years, we worked hard to rebuild this business. We did when we bought it. We changed the name from Phelps Patrol and Guard Service to Phelps Security, Inc. because that was really more of our identity. But we wanted to build our business based on the principles of integrity and humility. We never wanted to get too big for our britches. We always wanted to know that God was really our foundation and that our family was the most important thing. We held ourselves accountable for every promise we made to anybody, and we did whatever it took to make that promise come true. And I think because of that, we built a reputation that I can still be proud of today. We chose to remain local. A lot of people that do what we do end up in other cities, but we deliberately chose not to do that. Because like I said, my family and my faith are really the two most important things to me. Over the years, our 3 grown children heard nothing but Phelps Security. You can only imagine a 24/7 business, 3 kids talking on the phone. That's all they heard, 24/7. So as they graduated from college, they all came back, whatever. And I'm so blessed that they did. Even my daughter, who has a master's in chemistry, ended up back to work temporarily while she was looking for a job when she got back from grad school. And we never let her leave because she's too smart. Because I've always heard that you're only a good business person or you're only smart yourself if you surround yourself with people that are smarter than you, right? So that's what we did, and all three are really smarter than I am. Over those years, they've come in, and then we built a family team. So now there were 5 of us instead of 2, and that's a blessing in many, many ways, especially in 2016. Because unfortunately in 2016, I lost my husband suddenly, and I still don't know why he died, okay? We lost our dream partner, and he was a dream partner in every way that could possibly be. He was a wonderful person. He was fun to be with. We thought each other were funny, so we had a blast in life. But we also were both hard workers. So I didn't have one part of the team that had to pull more weight than the other. So that was a wonderful thing. We continue to work hard to provide the highest quality security we can. Security is another whole subject matter in Memphis now and in every city, because some of the factors upon which we built the philosophy of security are fading with our judicial system. And I could speak to you for a really long time without struggling on that subject. But as I said, all those can't do as a woman things at 18, really now, I feel like are almost laughable to me because I am the largest woman-owned entity in Memphis now. And I'm very proud of that, more because of my story. Because being a woman kept me from doing what I really wanted to do, what my passion was, what I think I probably would have been best at in my lifetime. I might have not had the financial success that I've had, but I would have had my heart fulfilled more with that job. So I think it's maybe kind of a laugh that God's letting me have, I think, or whatever, because at the end, that's where we are. So, you know, in thinking back, if there's anyone in here that might be thinking about becoming an entrepreneur or you're a new business owner, so what do I think someone has to have to be an entrepreneur? Number one, I think you have to have a dream. I think you have to have an ability to determine what you want your life to be. And you have to figure out a way to make that happen. I think in my place, in my husband's place, neither one of us got to follow our dream. He really wanted to be a builder, and I really wanted to be a music minister. But we took the best seed opportunity that put itself in front of our face. And we thought, we're going with this. We didn't really have a choice because his family would have gone broke and that wouldn't have made us feel good. But still, if we could have abandoned it, other people did. So take the best seed opportunity that faces you and go with it. Don't get stuck on what you think you're supposed to do in life. You may find you can be more successful doing something you never dreamed of doing rather than your dream. For me, I made my dream my hobby, and I've sung all over the city, and I've used all the stuff that I learned how to do, but I did it for God instead of for cash. But that's better, that's more rewarding anyway, right? So I think you need to be brave. You may have to stick your neck out. Mine was flat over the guillotine. I've said that so many times in the last 42 years. You have to take a risk. You may have to take a risk to begin your journey. But if you do, don't be afraid. You may have to risk going down with the ship, but no risk, no reward, right? We've all heard that before. So I think you have to have drive. So what was the driver for me to tackle business ownership? How in the world did a girl that wanted to be a music minister end up being a business owner? I still ask myself that question, but anyway. Love for my family. I loved my family and my husband, and I wanted to help him. I had skills he didn't have. He had skills I didn't have, and we blended our skills and made a good team. And I think you can always find somebody to do that to help you achieve your personal goals. I think you have to have a willingness to work hard. That's probably thing number one. We both wanted to make a good life for our family, and we were both willing to do whatever it took. If it took 20 hours a day, we were both in it. So that's what we did. But I think you also have to have mentors. I think you have to find people you can trust to give you assistance and give you advice along the way and to encourage you. If you get discouraged, you have to have somebody to go to and say, I don't think I can do this, or what do I do in this situation? Because you can't be an expert on everything, and you've got to be brave enough to ask. You've got to be brave enough to go to your mentors. But you have people that can encourage you and show you it can be done, okay? Some of mine are simple mentors, but they're so important in my story. My sister, who gave me a job because I needed to buy a tube of toothpaste, to be honest with you. My dad died. I needed to help my mom. But she taught me so much. And I had no idea I would ever need to know that. But there, too, she made me feel smart because she taught me things I never thought I could even be good at. And she'd say, you're great at that. And that encouragement was so important. She also showed me that a person that came from the very same meager place I did could own a business. Because she did. Now, her business was small. That's what she wanted it to be. But she showed me it could be done. My mom. My mom had an 8th grade education. She didn't go to work until I was 12 years old. She was a stay-at-home mom. But she was so smart. She was so smart. When my brother went to school and we needed to move to a different neighborhood, our neighborhood was getting really rough, my mother took a job as a secretary at the fairgrounds. I don't know if most of y'all are probably too young to remember before Liberty Land, but we had a city-owned fairgrounds at the time. And she went to work as a secretary there. She worked there for several years, and then her boss was promoted within the park commission. They offered my mom the manager's position. And so we were so proud of her, but she had worked her head off for those people, and they knew that she could do it. But when my mom took that job, she became the first female amusement park manager in the whole entire United States. Wow. With an 8th grade education. So I was so proud of her, and I still am. It makes me want to cry, you know. Now that I know what that means as an adult, it makes me want to cry. But she told me how to work hard, how to be full of faith, how to be strong, and to just do it. Basically, just do it. But my boss, I can't, at the office equipment dealership, I can't not speak about him because he taught me so many of the more important things like management skills. I would have never dreamed of being a manager. And he taught me lots of things like you might not be successful and popular in the same place, because I'm always worried about people liking me. But he told me that you might have to get your friends elsewhere, but you got to do your job first, you know. And that was an important lesson. And I've told myself that over and over. And I've told many of the people that I mentor that one little statement, that you might not be able to find popularity and success in the same place. Now, I want people to like me. I'm not going to lie to you. And I'm going to do everything I can to make you happy there. But when it comes down to it, I'm going to do my job. And if you don't like me when it's over, it won't be my fault. I'm going to do everything I can. But the most important thing in my story is faith, okay? Faith for me was the greatest factor. When things seemed impossible for me, I knew that God was there for me, and I had a place to go. I could feel His hand in my life. I could feel Him moving things in directions. I tried to listen for His guidance, for His tap on my head or the whispers in my ears. I know He took me places to learn things that I would have never learned without that guidance. And I certainly prayed my way through lots of doubts and fears and hard times. So for you, the faith in your story may be having faith in yourself or having faith in a partner in order to have the confidence to take on a challenge and challenge yourself to step out and take a chance. That may be what your faith is about. I wish I had a Fred Smith story for you. I know my heirs do. I know they wish that I was Fred Smith, but I'm not. And as you can see, my story is much different than that. But if you're thinking of stepping out and starting your own adventure, or if you're in the middle of your story, I hope you can take something and pull out from my story and just know, first off, if I can do it, anybody can do it. But just take a chance. Take a chance. Thanks for listening to me.
She thinks she's not a good speaker. Would y'all please confirm to me that that is not the case?
Well, could y'all hear through the shaking of my voice?
No, my tears. I know it is 1 o'clock, so people probably are wanting to go on, but do you have any questions for Patti? I want to know what you think we can do about the security situation in this city, Patti.
Well, we probably need to get a lot of security company owners together and let you ask all of us that question. But what I find for myself is that it's so frustrating now. As a security business owner, what worked a few years ago doesn't work anymore, okay? And the reason it doesn't work is because the reason security could deter crime, and that's what our job is. You know, we're just supposed to say, hey, there's security here, go do it over there. You know, because you might be able to be identified, or, you know, you might be caught, okay? Now there's no fear because there's no fear from the judicial system, okay? So the only thing that we can do about it is we have to go to the judicial system to make changes, and that's done through our votes. And so many of us fail to vote. But what's even worse, we can't vote by party or by person. We've got to vote on what they stand for and what they're working for, okay? And we need to find people that are going to hold people accountable, okay, for their crimes in order for anything to work, okay? I mean, we're still out there, you know, doing the same thing, but where once, if you had security, I could guarantee you wouldn't have any crime on your property. Now all I can do is minimize it at best, okay? Because they're not afraid anymore. And now my security guards encounter people in parking lots and stuff that have a car full of 4 or 5 people with, you know, assault rifles and masks on their face. And I'm not going to ask one of my employees to risk their life for somebody's car, okay? I mean, I couldn't morally do that. So we've got to go beyond what we're doing. I mean, all these things that we're doing are still all important. Everything you can do at your home to deter crime, if it's a Ring doorbell and lighting and cutting your bushes down away from your windows, I can give you a whole speech on a lot of things that you can do, okay, in order to protect yourself. But it's on you as a person. You've got to not think you're not going to be a victim anymore. You've got to say, I'm a potential victim, okay? And you've got to do everything in your day as you walk around to try to not be on your phone while you're walking down the street. I mean, every step you make and every move you make has to be calculated by you to not become a victim of crime anymore. And it's a sad place to be. I've been around a while, you know, as this lady at my farm says, I'm kind of long in the tooth, so I've been around when it wasn't that way, you know, where we could walk around and feel like we lived in a safe society, but we really just don't now. And I fear for my grandchildren, I fear for my children, and I fear for my friends, I fear for myself, you know. I used to have a 6'5" cop standing next to me everywhere I went, and I don't anymore, and it changed my thinking drastically about how I manage my own day-to-day life. And men, you're as vulnerable as we are, okay? So we've got to do something. That's where I say the go-to is the judicial system, because we've got to make people fear getting caught. And it's out of hand. So I don't know how we stop it, because it's at such an extreme degree. We should have done this way back. So I wish I could say I had the answers. I don't, but I'm in the struggle with everybody. And I'll continue to do everything to keep my clients and my family and my friends safe or whatever, but it's going to take all of us, and we're going to have to find out what people are standing for, and we're going to have to get those people in leadership around us. I mean, that's my take.
Well, thank you. Words of advice, and if you have a sheet of all those things that people can do to protect their houses, I can send it to everybody. Okay. I know I've seen one before from you, because it's very good information. She used to do a program called Big, too, where she would have community people that were just interested meet with law enforcement so that they could just keep those lines of communication open. And we're going to work on her to, it's not her that's not doing it again, so we're going to get that going again. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for this, Patti. We really, really appreciate it.